What's up, guys? So I was reading Ecclesiastes the other day, and I really wanted to share what I learned after reading it because it almost gave me like a new perspective on life and how we're approaching it and how we're chasing things that have no value to God, and they just add to the noise. And it was written by Solomon, and he is the wisest, the wealthiest, most accomplished man in the ancient world. And he sits down at the end of his life and he basically says, I had everything, yet I had nothing. Then it hit me, because we live in a culture that's obsessed with having everything. More money, more power, more success, more experiences, more of everything. And the Bible looks at it and it basically just says that it's like quote, chasing the wind. And today I want to open this up with you because I think that Ecclesiastes, that it might be the most relevant book in the Bible for our generation right now. And before we get into the text, you kind of have to understand who's writing this, because it was written by Solomon, and Solomon's not some monk who gave up all of his worldly things and starts writing about why they don't matter. He was the guy who had everything, and he was the wealthiest human being who had ever lived. And scripture says that silver was so abundant because Solomon had so much that it was worthless. And he had palaces and vineyards and gardens and fame across the entire world. And God had given him wisdom beyond any person before or after him. And so when this man sits down and writes Ecclesiastes, he's not some broke philosopher who's speculating about money. He's the richest man alive. And, looking back at his life of achievement and saying that it was not enough. None of it was enough. And he opens the whole book with one word: meaningless. And he's not saying that nothing matters. He's saying that everything exists only on this earth apart from God. It's temporary. It's mist. You can see it. You can reach for it, but you cannot hold on to it. And then a few minutes later, he gives us this image in Ecclesiastes 1:14. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Chasing the wind. Think about what that means for a second. You can see the wind, you can feel it, you can watch it move things around you, but you cannot catch it. You cannot hold on to it. The moment you think you've grabbed it, it's already somewhere else. And that's what Solomon is saying that our earthly ambition is like. You can feel it pulling from you. You can see other people chasing it, but no matter how fast you run, it always just stays ahead of you. And all these worldly things in our life, the money, the fame, like your grades, they all mean nothing to God. And when you go to heaven, that's not what you get judged on. And yet in our world, it's what everyone strives for, and not a relationship with Jesus. So in chapter 2, Solomon doesn't just theorize about this. He actually runs an experiment. And he tried everything that our culture tells us will make us happy. And he documents what happened. So Ecclesiastes 2:1-3 says, I said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure to find out what is good. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness. What does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine, embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. So, he tested pleasure, he tested entertainment, he tested the thing that our generation calls living your best life. And then he goes further, he tries achievement. Ecclesiastes 2:4-6 says, I undertook great projects, I built houses for myself and planted vineyards, I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them, I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. He tried accumulation, building more, acquiring more, creating more. He tried influences and legacy. He's surrounding himself with the best people, accomplishing things that no one had ever done before him. But, then he says in Ecclesiastes 2:10 through 11, I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for all my toil. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. That is every ambition of our culture holds up as the goal. Total freedom, total abundance, unlimited access, no restrictions. And the man who actually lived it says, I surveyed it all, it was empty. Now, I kind of want to be careful here, because Solomon is not saying that ambition is evil. He's not saying that you shouldn't work and work is pointless. He's not telling you to give up on your goals and sit in a room and do nothing. He is saying that when those things become the point, your driver, when achievement and comfort and pleasure are what you're ultimately living for, they will always leave you hollow and longing for more every single time, because they were never designed to satisfy you at the deepest level. Only God was designed for that. And when you put all these worldly things and prioritize them over Jesus, they become an idol. And you are worshiping those things rather than God and God alone, as it says in the 10 Commandments. Now, here's what I love about Ecclesiastes, is it doesn't just leave you in this emptiness of how everything is so horrible. It actually points somewhere. After all of it, all the testing, all the achieving, all the accumulating, Solomon ends the entire book with 2 verses that cut through everything. Ecclesiastes 12:13 says, Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the duty of all mankind. The whole book, every experiment, observation, every piece of wisdom, it's here. Fear God, know him, orient your life around him, and this is where meaning actually lies. And, Jesus says the exact same thing in Matthew 6. He says, Do not store up for yourselves treasure on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, and where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Jesus is not anti-ambition, he's just redirecting it. He's saying you were made to build something, you were made to pursue something, you were made to pour yourself into something, and you just want to make sure that it's in something that lasts in Jesus. And Paul in Colossians 3:2 says it simply, set your minds on all things above, not on earthly things. Like, set your mind. That is a deliberate, daily, active choice. It's not a feeling. It's not a one-time decision. It's a daily reorientation of what you're actually living for. And, the truth is that you are going to chase something. That's how we were made as humans. The question isn't whether you will pursue something with your whole life. The question is what you're going to pursue. Chase the wind and you're going to be exhausted and empty. If you chase God and you know him and serve him and be who he made you to be, you will find the one thing that satisfies you. So, what I'm going to leave you with this week is just ask yourself honestly, what am I chasing right now? What thing am I telling myself will finally make me feel like I am enough once I get it? And then name it and just bring it to God. Not to feel guilty about it, but just let him show you that what he has to offer is better than what you want. And, because he always has something better. He always does. And, so that's all I have for today. But if this video helped you, share it with your friends. I'll see you in the next one. God bless.